First of all, I'd like to welcome such an eminent panel out here. Zubin, welcome. Chris, welcome on the panel, and Harsh. So I'll start with the gentleman on my right, Zubin. Zubin, your business is largely in the infrastructure, defense sector. I'd like to ask you your thoughts on when do you think the growth in Indian sector, there's been so much of buzz around the fact that, India is not growing enough, and do you see the growth really happening in India, or is it a lot of hype that you hear in the market?
Yeah. Thank you. So I'd like to start by saying that I think over the last, if you look at the last 2-3 years, right, it's been a pretty stressful period for the markets we are into. And I think particularly on the building solution side, which is the business that I run, we've had a pretty stressful period. I think after the elections, there's been a lot of positive sentiment with the new government coming. Sentiment is clearly very, very high. When I talk to customers, our real estate customers or people in infrastructure, everyone is definitely a lot more bullish and is looking at deploying capital. However, on the ground itself, we haven't seen that pick up yet, to be very clear. In fact, I read a report just yesterday in the third quarter, which was third quarter of the calendar year, which was July to September. Real estate was down almost 20%, across the board in terms of new housing starts. So while I think there is positive sentiment, there is a lot that needs to be done, obviously, to get it moving. One is interest rates need to come down for consumers to begin to buy, and hopefully that will happen as inflation comes down. The second is, of course, policies, and I think you'd heard enough in the last panel around land acquisition, that need to be revised. Policies also that around to grow manufacturing need to come in. But I don't think this is this is something we can expect immediately, to be honest. I think we have definitely a government that has the right direction in mind, and we have to be patient. And I think that's the most important thing, because it's probably going to take, in my view, at least a year for things to begin to roll and cash to come into the system and people to begin to invest. So.
Thank you. Chris, I want to ask you, is there a likelihood of a fatigue setting into the system because of so many years of waiting, and now again, after the changeover, there is still a lot of time to wait? There was a 45-day plan, there's a 100-day plan. Do you really see that there is an expectation with respect to time and milestones that is being met, or at least being communicated?
Well, I think that the new government arrived with a lot of expectations. We all had high expectations that the government would come in and make some pretty quick changes. And I think really not a lot's happened. There's been a lot of talk, but I think the first budget that they delivered, which was about 45 days after taking office, yes, it was a short period of time since they took office, but really I think it was a lost opportunity in terms of being able to stake out some policy initiatives or direction that they could have taken. I thought the budget was, really a lost opportunity of doing that. And as in business, we're looking for some pretty clear direction in terms of, what are you doing about taxation reform, simplifying tax? What are you doing about providing infrastructure so that we can build manufacturing? If you look at what happened in China, the Chinese government provided world-class infrastructure first, so businesses could then set up and expand. Where's the availability of cheap capital? Where's the labor reform so that we can make use of what is still a cheap labor base in India? It's roughly a third, half the cost of labor in China. Where are the policy initiatives in relation to these land acquisition? It's all pretty clear what needs to be done. A lot of rhetoric, but not really a lot of action happening, so it's a concern. And I think that after 100 days, people start wondering, if it's ever going to happen. No one's coming back and saying, well, this is what we want to do. It's a lot harder than we thought because of, entrenched bureaucracy, And so therefore it's going to take us more time. No one's telling us that. So, you know, I think that we take a wait and see attitude, but I think patience is starting to run out.
Okay, thank you. Harsh, which sector do you think, or sectors, are likely to take off the fastest in the current situation? And should the government focus more on that?
So I think sectors that are likely to take off fastest are the ones where government does not focus. And I think that's a good thing. Lot of activity in terms of startups and entrepreneurial ventures that are coming up. Last year, if you look at what got funded with various seed funds, India Angel Networks and other angel networks, almost 800 of these got funded, 4,000 got created, and with so much of capital that has chased Flipkart, Snapdeals of the world, we see a lot of buzz around it, at least in technology sector that I come from. Nothing much has changed in terms of decision making. While a lot of good talk is happening, good directions are getting set, I think one problem that the new government hasn't yet cracked is decisions don't get done at the ministerial or political level. They get done at the bureaucracy level. And confidence of bureaucracy in taking decision and not getting later on bulldozed or trampled over has not yet come back. So as late as today or yesterday, I hear very, very senior bureaucrats talking of still what they used to talk 6 months back. That see what's happening in coal mining, see what's happening in 2G. If I sign on this file, you know, I'm not sure whether I'll get backed up tomorrow. And that's a serious problem. And that problem needs, as Jyoti was mentioning, across different regulatory bodies, CAG, CBI, CVC, some meeting of minds that, hey guys, we are all in the same team. And I think that's the missing piece. And unfortunately, I don't see that happen. So till that happens, I think sectors where there is less government involvement, education on fringes has less government involvement, although there is a regulation when it comes to not-for-profit and so on. Healthcare, it's largely privatized sector in India. E-commerce so far has remained out of government involvement, but government is coming very heavily into it now. So sectors where there is less government involvement are likely to take off faster, and I'm seeing that happen right now.
Chris, I have a question for you. Do you see that the economy needs a booster dose? And the reason why I'm asking this question also is that what you hear in the market is some of the most potential corporates, are their balance sheets sitting out there with companies that really need to be sort of, the angina needs to be removed because they have a bad balance sheet today but have a great potential. And is there a booster dose required to remove those clogs?
I don't think that there's an opportunity for the government to intervene in the way that we see the Fed intervening in the United States, you know, qualitative easing. You don't have trillions of dollars sitting on company balance sheets like you do in the United States waiting to invest when the environment gets better. Indian company balance sheets are heavily indebted mostly, and you know, we're all you know, paying a huge interest rate. I think really what needs to be done is the government needs to be a government and not be in business and not over-regulate. So remove regulations that are unnecessary, that create nothing but aggravation and opportunity for bureaucrats to obtain you know, corruption payments, and let businesses grow and flourish. Let the wonderful bunch of entrepreneurs that we have in this country flourish with, you know, freedom to express themselves, and let inefficient industries die. Let them go down. Stop protecting inefficient industries so that the best survive and grow. And through that, we'll start finding, with good, sound monetary policy, allowing us to get funds at lower interest rates from overseas, potentially a little bit more than we are at the moment, we'll see businesses flourish, and with that, employment is created. Harsh made a good point. Back office services, which are provided here, is a huge part of our GDP. I think about half of our GDP comes from that, and it's because they rely on governments for nothing. They don't need governments for roads. They don't need anything. It's all just a wire out to the outside world, which is provided by someone else. So what we fundamentally need is an environment where businesses can prosper and grow, and through that we'll create jobs. And that's where we're going to fix the problem. We're not going to fix the problem by creating, another nanny state, another opportunity for the government to be socialist. And we need to get away from the socialist policies. That's the only way we're going to be successful as a country.